He's an Academy Award-winning Best Actor, a college professor, a philanthropist, and now a best-selling author. This lifelong Texan continues to pave his own path thanks to the green lights all along the way. Matthew McConaughey, it is so great to have you with us today. You are awesome. This book, Greenlights, well, first of all, I love your analogy of green lights, and we'll get into that in just a bit. But you say this is a love letter to life, and you wrote this at age 50 in the desert. What compelled you to want to write a love letter to life now?
Yeah, I didn't know it was going to be a love letter to life when I sat down to write it. What I did was finally got the courage to go look at 36 years of writings and journals that I'd been keeping, which took a lot of courage because I was scared to do that. I was scared of embarrassment. I was scared of guilt. I was scared of shame. I was scared of seeing the arrogant little SOB that I know I've been in times in the past. And when I went back, finally got the courage to go look at my journals, I saw all those things and I was all those things. But as I put it together, I looked at it and I was like, wow, it is a love letter to life. And that doesn't mean it's all a Hallmark card. That doesn't mean it's a love letter for all my failures and foibles and stumbles as well. And I noticed how all of those red and yellow lights where I failed, they actually they were hidden green lights in those. They lent to helping me evolve as a man, helping me find more quality in life and understand what I stood for, what I stood against, being wrong many times to then help define what was right. And so in that way I was like, that seems to be that's life. That's my life. I think it's all our life in some way.
Well, in your book, your level of transparency in green lights is really strong. Did you have any moment, did the heat in the desert overtake you one day where you said, wow, man, I'm really doing a deep dive here. Am I going too deep? Do I feel safe in sharing all of this? What made you decide to go there?
Well, that part was never a negotiation for me. If anything, I was like, you're not going deep enough. Are you going deep enough? Are you being honest enough? Are you being truthful enough? And then, as you know, in writing a book, are you sharing it in a way that it can translate to others? Because yes, a lot of these are personal stories, but I think a lot of the success of the book, what people are getting from it, is that people are seeing themselves in it.
Right.
They're going, I'm seeing myself in my life in this. So that makes me very happy because, I could tell all the stories in the first person. Well, I feel this, or this happened to me. And you could read it as an autobiographical thing. And you go, well, okay, I learned something about McConaughey, but I don't get anything from it. I wanted to be, I noted this happened on day 8. The more personal I got, the more I realized, this is more translatable to humanity at large. And I remember going, well, that's odd. And then I went, well, duh. No, it's not. Now, mind you, I don't believe all self-expression is art, but I do believe all art is self-expression. So I was just trying to put it out in as artful a way, but was also truthful. And in that part, the transparency was non-negotiable because if I wouldn't have been so transparent, I would have been half-assing it.
Good point. And it's interesting because what I love about authors is it seems that everybody's looking for that metaphor for life, right? What does that look like? How do we analyze it and how do we explain it? And so your use of a green light is such a great analogy. It kind of reminds me of when I'm driving through downtown Houston and they've got them synced at 18 miles an hour, right? So if I hit a green and I'm going 18, I know I'm catching every green through downtown. Right. And that's such a cool vibe because you're just cruising and everything's just looking good, right?
In the flow.
In a flow. But you talk also about the importance of those yellows, those pauses, and the reds and the stops. Have you heard any feedback from viewers and readers about maybe people who are stuck in those yellows and reds, and what's your advice for them?
I have heard a lot. And, somebody brought up a couple of months ago something that stuck with me, which is the art. Much of the time in our life is what do we do at the yellow light? Because you got your choice there. Do I slow down, give myself a red, sit still, which we need to do sometimes in life. We run into a caution. We need to stop. We got to deal with this. But sometimes we got to do the opposite. Oh, I see a caution light. You know what? I'm not giving this crisis credit. I'm putting the pedal to the metal and I'm blowing through this yellow light. So again, I think that's part of the art, one of the arts of living that I've been having a lot of conversations with people about. It's like, when do we, if we stop at every yellow light, well, then we dwell on we become victims. We become victimized by our victimhood. We stack up these problems and it gets heavy and we dwell. But if we blow through every yellow light, we don't evolve. We don't grow up. We don't change. Our life doesn't have more quality as we get older. So what do we do with that yellow light? Sometimes we got to stop and take pause, dwell on it. Sometimes we need to step on the gas and blow through it. I've been having that conversation a lot with people. And a lot of the things about the red light is understanding the fact and believing, maybe more importantly, the fact that this too shall pass. Mm-hmm. It, even metaphorically on a traffic light, it's going to turn green. And maybe I just need to sit here a little bit longer.
Isn't there some faith in that?
I believe there is some faith in that. Absolutely. And even if someone is not a believer, I think there's still faith in that. There's even faith in one's transcendent self, in one's want and desire to evolve, to become more themselves, to learn about themselves, their relationship with themselves, the relationship with the world they live in, how to get more of what they want. We need those red lights to have some discernment, to sit back and go, it wasn't all green lights, was it?
Yeah.
It wasn't all just easy street. I wasn't doing 18 miles an hour hitting every single green light. Okay, well, that's fair. It's going to change. But if it was all just actual green lights, then what are we doing here?
Right.
We're going to just go in circles until we run out of gas.
Exactly.
So yeah, I've enjoyed those conversations a lot. That's been a lot of what people bring up to me is, let's talk about the reds and the yellows.
Yeah, I can imagine that. And I think they appreciate and enjoy your philosophy and your strategy behind it. Reading your book, one of the things I also love is just your boyish nature and the craziness, this wild, adventurous spirit that you have. And so I'm curious, as a parent, some things are taught, some things are biological, some things are learned. In the McConaughey household, have some of your children adopted this adventurous spirit of yours?
Yes.
And what's that like as a parent?
Well, I have 3 children, so it's a little different with each one. They are all 3 risk takers in different ways. The eldest is a big thinker. He sits back and he measures, and he stays out of the fray. And you don't think he's a risk taker, but boy, once he makes up his mind and understands the situation, he goes in with a single-mindedness that makes me drop my jaw. The middle one is like the adventure of greet the world. Let's go. I want to go to Switzerland to boarding school tomorrow. Wait, whoa, you're 11. I'm like, wow, I love that you're like not afraid of the world. Go. You want to go fill your passport now.
Right.
The youngest one is the more literal daredevil. Bye-bye, look over there, and he's hanging from a tree limb, and he's got to swing about 5 feet over to land on top of the doghouse that has an aluminum top at an angle, and you're like, oh, don't know about that. And he pulls it off, usually. Now, as parents, we have to, kids aren't afraid of heights until they fall from the tree.
Sure.
And what is that level? How high is that tree limb we let them climb before we go, hey, buddy, come on down? Because a certain amount of distance in a fall that may scrape or bruise them, I think is good for them. But you don't want them to fall from a height where you got to go to the emergency room.
Right, exactly. There are measured levels of lessons.
Yeah. And so I think it's I'm constantly trying to measure that limb. We're like, no, let them go. Go ahead. See how far from the house you want to go walking into those woods. Go. And then when you go, hey, come on back. Come on down from the tree. You're about 40 feet up there. Come on down.
Yeah. This ties in nicely to outlaw logic that you define a lot in your book. How does that come into play in your household as well?
Yeah,
and define what that is to the reader.
Well, it's, my mom's with us now. She's 89, and she's the queen of the outlaw logic. I mean, she is the, when that story with like that poem that I wrote.
Yeah, allegedly. That was great.
Do you believe it? Yeah. Do you understand it? Yeah. Well, then it's yours.
Right.
What? Okay. Well, actually, it's plagiarism, but you understand it, therefore it's yours.
Right.
So she's the queen of relativity in that. And look, it's my family is very much. I was raised, as much as they voted red down the line, they were libertarians. And they are like
Ayn Rand readers.
Yes, and it is on you. You create your own reality. Self-reliance, will, make it happen. If you fail, get up, try it again. Resilience, and so, we have that in our household for sure.
Yeah.
And again, with 3 of the kids, you have different personalities. I have a child who's very conscientious of rules. And the rules that the world tells you can and can't do. And he's the one that, man, if we pull out of the driveway without putting the seatbelt on, he's on us. And that one, I'm sometimes like, I wish you'd kind of let the seatbelt slide till maybe I got to the edge of the street. Just, And then there's other ones that are like, taking the seatbelt off while you're driving down the road. They're like, whoa, put it back on. That's a rule. So we're trying to give the basics that keep them as healthy as possible and how the world works.
Sure.
We do have our own rules inside our household on our property, and we do talk about how the rules in our household work and how do they apply outside of our household. And I want them to be courageous and risk takers and be autonomous individuals.
Sure.
At the same time, there are rules to the game. I talk about it in the book. We've got to learn to block and tackle before we say, hey, let our freak flag fly and go play whiteout.
Absolutely.
To use terms.
Boundaries,
So
borders and
there are
boundaries.
respectful rules that I think we all need to even civically follow to navigate and negotiate the world.
You touched upon this in your book quite a bit. There's this thread of politics, and you did mention that your family was kind of straight ticket Republicans, so much so that they were libertarians. You've held so many different positions. Now you're an author. You know what my next question is going to be. I mean, how much of a potential idea or possibility is it for you to enter politics here in Texas?
It's a good question, and one that I'm honestly trying to look in the eye. I believe that I have leadership qualities that are worth sharing and being in that position.
Yeah.
A position of leadership. All right. Whether that category is politics, and I honestly don't know. I'm trying to measure that. That's a big life change, not just for me, but for my family. Politics is maybe I'm better as a free agent. Maybe I'm better moving from the private sector to get more things done or be more useful. But I understand and have a reverence for that position and how a great politician can set a vision, But I've still got a lot to learn about what that category is. What are the rules of that category? What rules can be changed for the better? What rules are just inherently, hey, don't go fight that fight. That fight's not worth fighting. That's just kind of how it is. And is that an arena that, one, I would want to engage in, and two, is it the one that people would want me to engage in? So I'm measuring those things, and all of what I just told you I'm quite honest. I'm not trying to skirt anything.
Sure.
I'm being straight up with you about where I am and how I'm trying to look at it.
Yeah, from a measured perspective.
Yeah.
I have the pleasure of getting to talk to you today for the Celebration of Reading event taking place here in Houston. And let's talk about the importance of literacy and how the gift is in not just receiving this book, but when you start opening these pages and the storytelling, that to me is such a sad thing to miss out on, is the potential of a good story that connects with your heart, mind, and soul. So let's talk about how important literacy is.
Well, I didn't grow up a big reader, but I did grow up where around the dinner table each night, around that lazy Susan, it was storytelling time.
Yeah.
And you better be a damn good storyteller to hold everyone's attention. And if you weren't, And I remember being younger. My dad was a great storyteller. My brothers were a great storyteller. My mom was a good storyteller. And there'd be a pause, and I'd look for my gap, and I'd come in and start. And I'd be nervous, and all of a sudden, 20 seconds in, my story would start to fizzle out, or I'd lose my concentration. Well, they just take over. Oh, you didn't hold our attention. So you had to compete to be a storyteller. My children love to read, and that makes Camille and I so happy. Especially in this last year, with all the quarantining and the time where we've had the frontier has not been a physical frontier; it's been a mental frontier. And through books, I've seen my children travel the world, travel ages, travel centuries, and where they went through a book, where maybe because they physically couldn't go, have the experience themselves. So they're getting a lot of culture out of reading. I, growing up, got more culture out of actually going to the physical place. And I'm historically a very slow reader, meaning I read 2 lines of if it's real well written, I'll read 2 lines and I have to shut the book and go, whoa, whoa. Let me
What did
walk
I
with
just
that
take
for a
in?
while. But it's travel. Reading good stories, it's travel.
It is. It's travel of time, space, and place, and it really is transporting. And I think you have effectively done that in your book. I mean, you took me back to segments. My childhood wasn't nearly as crazy as yours, but there were some things that I could totally identify with. And I love that. I love that I found my story through your story. And isn't that the whole idea, is that human connection?
Well, there you go. I would say that's good art. That's what I love about good art, that I can, we see ourselves in it.
Sure.
And yes, is it individually my story that I live, but I can't, you just said it, you saw your story in my story. Mm-hmm. Well, that translation, that's what makes me get excited to go, Yes. Okay. The deal that we're all in this together. We've all got specific stories, but it's the same, different vocabulary, same language.
That's exactly right. That's a great way to put it. Great way. Matthew McConaughey, this has been such a treat for me.